Good morning from the summit at Vale Pass. Oh, what an amazing leg working last 2 days. Finally made it to Glenwood Springs, camped overnight with John in the Walmart, and then unloaded the bike the next morning. Enjoyed a final story-filled breakfast with John. How are you feeling, John? You ready to get rid of me?
No, but you need to be on the way.
And then hugs and off I went. Glenwood Springs, it's a really unique place. I wasn't really expecting to go over this pedestrian bridge and see rafters coming down the Colorado River. And even in the middle of the morning, it was like a beach resort. The local hot springs feed this enormous pool. And there were hundreds and hundreds of people in there. I was kind of tempted to get in and have a little bit of a dip. It was already getting quite warm. But I'd only just got going. There were miles to cover and I'm nothing if not disciplined. So after a week out of the saddle, maybe mountain riding isn't the best start, but I'm going to take it nice and easy. The gradients should be pretty flat following the Colorado and Eagle rivers. I'm just excited to get back on the bike. Had such a fortuitous last few days. I mean, how kind is John to come and get me from Bakersfield and then just fill me with stories for the last 2 days as we drove up here from the high desert of California. God, a week ago, if you'd asked me whether I'd be setting off once again in Colorado, I would have said you're crazy. Pretty happy though. Let's go ride a bike again. There's a trail that leads from Glenwood Springs all the way to Denver, and quite a lot of the time it's an independent, non-motorized path, so no other vehicles to share with, just pedestrians. Sometimes you go onto frontage roads and then back onto the path. And it was just a really lovely day's riding. I climbed about 500 meters in altitude in total, and that felt fine. It was quite a nice little practice just to get the legs working. And then, you know, along the way, stopping to chat to cyclists and watching the rafters burst over whitewater. It was such an enjoyable time. It felt really, really good to be back on the trail. Such a good decision to leave the desert far, far behind and head over the Rockies. I was exhausted though. I don't think I've completely got over the heat stroke. So by the end of that first day, I'd covered about 35 miles and I started to think, what's this? It's raining. I was just thinking, maybe I'll find somewhere to camp tonight. And then I thought, I'm so tired. I just need a good long night's sleep. And this has just made up my mind. I honestly left the desert behind for this. Yesterday morning hit the road about 8:30 and I knew it was going to be a long, long day of climbing ahead. Most of it was fairly gradual so I could keep up a decent pace. Some of it definitely wasn't gradual. I guess the first half of the day was just wiggling my way through little towns, starting in Eagle where I slept the night before, through Edward, and then made it up to Vale. I've never been to Vale before. It's kind of weird coming here in the summer for the first time. The cable cars were still kind of going up and down, obviously helping out the summer activities. And sure, it was beautiful, but I'd like to come back here in the snow and see what it's really about. And then after leaving Vale, it was all uphill. Then started this steady climb, again on a path which wasn't connected to the road, so no vehicles to deal with, which is always superb, especially when you're snailing along about 1 mile an hour. It was an 8.9 mile trail all the way to the top of the summit. I try not to look behind too much, the views are always great, but now and then I was just like, wow, that's a solid climb. All kinds of wildlife. I think there was a big fat beaver, weirdly, kind of 3,000 meters in altitude. I'm not sure what it was doing. Maybe it wasn't a beaver. I didn't manage to get too close. It was fast considering it was so large. Chipmunks always dashing across the road. And then towards the end of the day, I saw 2 moose. Look at this. 2 young moose down in the valley. Oh, they're beautiful. And then I made it up here over the pass about 7:30. Now that is satisfying. 1,000 meters in the last 4 hours. I had a nap in between, but I was tired, you know. Didn't really have enough time to go down the other side, so thought, well, you know what? I could put my tent up, but it was cold. I was wheezing as well. The air is thin. So I decided to make use of the local restroom. They have this big kind of open space, which seems redundant. So I thought I may as well put it to use. So yeah, another weird place to sleep. Definitely a big mountain climbed, feeling on top of it. On the way up the hill, I had a little bit of an episode, like a happy episode. Music in my ears, 5 miles uphill to go. Sweating like a happy. This is awesome. This open space, getting back on the road, knowing that this is it now. Oh, I've just felt great. Dancing around at 2.5 kilometers above sea level. Probably that's why I'm still panting. So now I've got about 100 miles to Colorado Springs on the other side of the Rockies. But before the next bout of climbing, I get to reap the rewards of yesterday. 12 miles downhill, all the way to Frisco. Come on.